One of the main talking points of some of the main leftist thinkers of the day, especially ones that I find particularly worthwhile to listen to, people like Christopher Hedges, Michael Hudson, Richard Wolff, have really been hammering home this idea that the United States is in the stages of a dying empire. And while there is definitely some truth of that, there's no doubt in my mind that the United States is still the empire in the world. Now, if you've listened to this YouTube channel before, or if you know me in real life, you will know that one of my biggest influences is Noam Chomsky. And if you consider yourself a leftist thinker, a member of the true left, then you are also influenced by Noam Chomsky. And if you are someone who considers yourself a member of the true left, and you haven't read or listened to Chomsky, then you really need to get on that. Noam Chomsky is, without a doubt, one of the most important thinkers of our time. And we are all lucky to have lived in the same era as someone who, by all means, could have used his genius just for his own monetary gain, but instead chose to educate and be active in the world. In 2016, Chomsky released a book asking the question, who rules the world? In 2025, the answer still hasn't changed. The United States still rules the world, but not through diplomacy or peace. It rules through economic warfare, manufactured consent, and endless distractions. In early 2025, the United States launched a sweeping tariff campaign, the Trump administration saying that it was going to make an economic world more equal for the United States and it was going to force manufacturing jobs back, which is something that every president has said since, well, all of them, really. This tariff campaign included 25% tariffs on German steel and autos, 10 to 30% on France, Belgium, the UK, and even Switzerland. These tariffs weren't economic policy, they were punishment and lashing out. And yet, when Washington escalated with Iran, those same nations fell in line in support, saying they were 100% backing the United States' actions. Saying, especially places like Germany, who got hit the hardest and who are currently experiencing an economic downturn, had no problem supporting the United States' military action. These are places that, in these last years, have voted in representatives who are opposing the current United States regime, but in practice are behind and supportive of Western intervention in the Middle East, particularly the United States strikes and what Israel has been doing both in Iran and in Gaza. The media also played its role, especially the New York Times, which is not to be surprised. It led with headlines like, the United States enters war with Iran, striking Fordo nuclear site, and Israel strikes Iran nuclear program, killing top military officials. Clean and neutral language, hiding the bodies behind strikes and updates, just as they have done with their genocide in Gaza, Israel's genocide in Gaza. The media is always complicit, but the New York Times, who is supposedly the best place to go if you want to read all the dirt on Donald Trump. I mean, if you check the New York Times every single day, with the exception being of when the United States struck Iran a couple days ago, you will find that each headline, almost every single one, either includes Donald Trump's name or is connected to the Trump administration in some form or fashion. I mean, even when the New York Times did release that editorial by the surgeons who signed off saying that Israel soldiers were 100% targeting children by shooting them in the head and in the chest, purposely killing children with gunfire, they still, for the most part, buried it and have not really referenced it since. Any coverage on anything happening between Israel and Gaza has just lightly brushed the issue, but not really gone all the way in, because the New York Times is pro-Israel and the New York Times is 100% in on the United States government. Recently, Christopher Hedges had one Patrick Lawrence on his YouTube program or his podcast, which also is on Spotify and other streaming platforms, in which they discuss the New York Times and its complicity in the United States government's role. If you haven't already watched the manufacturing consent episode on his YouTube channel, you can go watch it. But better yet, just read or watch the documentary Manufacturing Consent by Noam Chomsky and Ed Herman. But all of this with Iran, of course, distracted from the truth of what is going on in Gaza and what Israel's real intentions are. The justification was Iran's nuclear program, even though United States intelligence and the IAEA both said there was no active weapons program, no credible evidence. Tulsi Gabbard, the head of intelligence for the United States, said there's no evidence that Iran is trying to get a nuclear weapon of any sort. Still, Israel launched airstrikes on enrichment sites. Of course, they said these were preemptive, that if they didn't do it, then they were going to have to defend themselves from attack, which is, of course, mostly bogus, as we know. But that's always a good way of saying we had no choice but to target residential areas and kill women and children, as Israeli soldiers and military forces do. Iran, of course, responded with missiles, drones, and proxy attacks, with Israel seeing damage done to its infrastructure and civilians and military personnel dying in Israel for the first time since October 7th. Civilian airports shut, shipping in the Gulf was disrupted, and around 224 Iranians and 24 Israelis were killed during what is now being called the 12-Day War. Radiation monitors didn't spike. Nuclear capacity in Iran still exists, but bombs were dropped, trust was obliterated, and the region is now edging closer to collapse. Then, suddenly, today, as I record this video mere hours ago, the Trump administration announced a ceasefire. A vague 2-stage, 24-hour ceasefire. No treaty, no disarmament, no one asked. It's just over, like that. The United States drops bombs, supports Israel. Iran launches a choreographed and announced attack to limit any sort of casualties. Only one missile hits the base in Qatar, which they attacked, and no one dies, and now it's just going to be over? Does anyone really believe this? Or if we do believe this, what is happening? And why is it happening? Is it because the Trump administration, Donald Trump's presidency, has just been marred by this kind of bipolar thinking that we're going to announce something one day and then a week later we're going to go back on it? We've seen it in his first presidency, but his second administration, it's been all over the place. From the tariffs to now this. The distraction from Gaza can't be understated. The last 12 days, the world has been staring down Iran while Gaza has just been left to die. And this time, they've even cut off the internet. They've completely destroyed communications. There's no clean water in Gaza. Disease is running rampant. Waterborne diseases are running rampant. During the 12-day war, Israeli forces intensified the assault on Rafah, the final refuge for over 1 million Palestinians. During the 12-day war, over 2,100 Palestinians were killed in Gaza, including 30,000 children who were left without aid. Hospitals are dry. Assistance has been totally halted. People have been amputated without anesthesia. Families are buried beneath rubble. The current number is a little over 56,000 Palestinians have died in Gaza, but the true number is probably way larger than that, and the majority of those have been women and children, with at least a third of them have been children who have been purposely and meticulously killed by the Israeli forces. There's been a blockade on Gaza going on for months now. The entire region is on the brink of starvation and has been for months now. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation or the American Israeli Aid Centers are just places for Israeli forces and American private contractors who are over there right now assisting in this genocide to just shoot Palestinians like they're shooting fish in a barrel. And the whole world was watching it happen. Europe was finally speaking out about it. They weren't doing anything about it because they were never going to do anything about it, but they were finally speaking out about it. And then this conflict with Iran happens. And Europe just gets right behind Israel, and it gets right behind the United States, and suddenly the starvation, and suddenly the murder, and suddenly the genocide is not on our radar anymore. Is Piers Morgan still going to be talking about this in the next couple weeks, or is he going to move on? 70% of telecom networks have now been destroyed since October in Gaza. Communication, which is the lifeline of any society, has been weaponized, as has everything else in Gaza. Food, electricity, water. It's not an accident. This is 100% a strategy. They've cut off aid. They've silenced witnesses. Journalists haven't been allowed in Gaza since this thing began. It's not a war, it's a genocide. And it was just totally covered up, and now it's being forgotten. More than likely, we're going to see the Palestinians pushed out of Gaza and into the Sinai of Egypt, despite Egypt not wanting to have anything to do with it. But hey, when the United States says something's going to happen, it's going to happen. That may not be what happens with the people in Gaza. Something much worse could happen. But that is the official plan, to remove all of the Gazans. I mean, that's the Trump plan that he announced in, February? He said that they were going to remove Gazans and rebuild Gaza, which is going to be at the very least a 5-year process because the whole place has been destroyed. It should be noted as we get to the end of this video that when we talk about the United States as the ruler of the world, they still are having cracks and pushback. BRICS, Russia, China, Brazil, India, South Africa, which also includes Iran, what is known as the Global South, has been pushing back against the Western ideologies, specifically the United States. They've been speaking out against the genocide. Russia and China, who are both have connections to Iran, have been pushing back against the what can only be called as aggression against Iran by Israel and the United States. So there is some light of people sticking out. It's just there's only so much you can do when the United States has the most powerful military in the entire world. Of course, there is a question to ask about all of this, which is, what did it achieve? Thousands dead, no disarmament, no real peace. Iran's nuclear program is, it looks like it's intact. Gaza is totally in ruins. The genocide is going to be completed. And the American public was never asked about it. We can talk about the War Powers Act or whatever is trying to be pushed through Congress right now. That's almost certainly going to fail. Even if it did get through Congress, do you think Donald Trump is going to sign that? Get real. There's no checks and balances anymore. There haven't been for quite a while. The only thing that can happen, the only thing that can create change is if the United States population, the American people, get together and they say enough is enough. Enough violence, enough using our taxpayer dollars to kill innocent people for reasons that are never truly made clear to anybody, and you have to dig to find out what the reasons are, and when you do find what the reasons are, you're really not happy about it. And to get the things that we really want, like healthcare, education. So who rules the world? It's still the United States. The empire that disrupts economic serenity with tariffs, bombs enemies into just dust, and erases all of the victims with blackouts. If you want to support the people of Gaza, the United States Campaign for Palestinian Rights is a good place to organize. It's a good place to figure out where to get aid. I donate $15 every month. I think if you want to match me on that, or if you want to donate whatever you can, that's cool too. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Something's got to give. And it's got to give soon. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.